Thanks for joining us. We begin with the unsolved murder of 17-year-old Julie Ferguson. Her devastated family and friends are desperate to catch her killer and are offering a $25,000 reward to bring whoever is responsible for her violent end to justice. Someone knows something about beautiful 17-year-old Julie Ferguson, who was found strangled and her throat slashed.
From ear to ear, like a happy face was in it.
She was a popular high school senior in Greenbelt, Maryland, on the outskirts of Washington, D.C.
Just not a mean bone in her body, really nice and funny.
A good friend.
Remembering Julie brings tears to the eyes of those who loved her, and Mom Pat remains so grief-stricken, she still finds it difficult to even talk about her daughter.
I can't do it.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Shelley Griffith and two girlfriends planned to meet Julie around 10 p.m. after she got off work at this Greenbelt strip mall.
I was going to get Julie the night she got killed, and she wasn't there.
But her belongings were. It was odd. Julie had been seen waiting in that very spot just minutes earlier.
We're like, what's going on here? That's her stuff.
Her panicked friends notified her mother and the police.
It became a murder investigation about 7.5 hours later.
That's when a passerby found Julie's body in a park about 5 miles away at 5:30 the next morning.
Her throat was cut, but it was later determined that she died from strangulation.
Homicide detective Bernard Nelson says there was no sign of robbery or sexual assault, but there were said to be bruises on Julie's hands, indicating she fought for her life. The violent murder had all of Greenbelt on edge.
It shook the neighborhood, shook them up quite a bit because they're not used to something like this.
Witnesses reported seeing several suspicious vehicles at the strip mall where Julie was last seen alive.
One that stuck out in particular was described as a burgundy or red Volkswagen Jetta that was occupied by two black males and a black female who were seen actually conversing with Julie before she disappeared.
That car and those people were never found. Convinced Julie was taken against her will, police first questioned a spurned admirer.
He was considered a suspect because he made a number of passes at Julie, which she rejected, which he didn't take very well.
That person of interest would later be convicted of a separate homicide and is now behind bars.
We've talked to him on numerous occasions, but at this time we have nothing to actually prove that he was involved.
Then there was this man, Doug DeSilva, a local auto mechanic who had previously been arrested and locked up for rape not far from where Julie was murdered.
We subsequently interviewed him a number of times. He didn't have a solid alibi of where he was at that time. He provided some statements that would indicate that he could possibly be involved, but nothing that would actually push it over the edge where we can charge him.
Police don't charge him because Doug DeSilva seems to have fallen off the face of the earth. His daughter, April, has not seen or heard from him for nearly 20 years.
I don't know where he is. I wish I could help, but I don't know.
She says her father disappeared several years after the murder of Julie Ferguson. Convinced he could not have hurt anyone, April is pleading for her dad to come forward to prove his innocence and clear his name.
It's important to my dad's legacy.
But Julie's still grieving mother is also pleading for help solving this cold case.
Somebody out there knows something, and I just wish they'd come forward and tell their story.
Julie's high school friends have a Facebook page, Justice for Julie Ferguson, which they hope might attract some leads as well as keep Julie's memory and case alive.
It's important because she might be forgotten. What happened to her might be forgotten, and she's not.
Welcome back. We continue now with another case that starts with a missing person but turns into a murder mystery. A popular Detroit chef vanishes, and his family and friends launch an all-out search, and the clues only lead to more questions.
Chef Doug, sharp as a tack.
6'2", 230 pounds, an ex-Marine.
How could a beloved chef who brought so much joy,
even if you've given something where he wasn't invited, he's there.
A great chef. Everybody who knew Chef Doug was cooking, it was gonna be some good food.
Hey, I'm dripping sauce. Hey, we got one question for you without calling me. I'm dripping sauce. She was dripping sauce, baby.
end up leaving his own family in such grief and pain?
My brother was a big guy, and you're not just gonna take him down.
Can't imagine why anyone would do this horrendous thing to my cousin.
They threw him away like he was trash.
It started early one June morning when DJ Calhoun, known lovingly as Chef Doug, didn't show up for a catering gig. His sister instantly knew something was wrong.
His best friend calls me and says, "You talk to your brother. He's supposed to be catering for a comedy show, and the guys who are the promoters are looking for him." I said, "Oh, well, let me call you right back."
DJ didn't answer his phone, so Dana tried texting him.
And my last text to him says, "Boy, you better call me as soon as you get this message."
But for the first time ever, radio silence. In fact, no one had heard from Dana's brother since around 3:30 that morning when he made a call to his best friend, capping off a Thursday night out on the town with buddies.
They're having a good time. They're popping bottles and, eating and drinking, and DJ, as normal, is the life of the party.
Now it was Friday night and DJ was still MIA. His sister went straight to the Detroit police.
It was my understanding that you had to wait 24 hours before you can make a police report, but maybe because I was so adamant about it, they took the police report.
The following day, Chef Doug was expected to fly to St. Louis to cater a wedding.
He's not at the airport. He didn't get on the plane.
That's when his cousin, Camilla Henderson, says the family really started to panic.
He doesn't miss anything because that's what he built his reputation on.
Then, a disturbing find. His family used OnStar to locate his SUV and discovered that it had been abandoned in the neighborhood of Brightmoor, nowhere near his home.
In a vacant lot in this terrible neighborhood. Car doors open, hatch was open.
We didn't know who was involved in the disappearance. It could have been one person, 2, 3, 4, 5. We just didn't know.
Complete strangers joined DJ's family and friends to search for the popular chef.
I couldn't keep sitting on my hands. Maybe he's somewhere under a brush, trees or something.
But even with all those people searching, nothing. Then, Dana's daughter made a startling discovery after finding her uncle's online passwords and accessing his bank account.
She told me that his debit card was being used.
Detective James McDonald is a homicide detective with the Detroit Police Department.
We go out to these businesses and we start, looking at the surveillance footage, and you see his card being used, and it's not Douglas Calhoun.
His family didn't know it yet, but Detective McDonald had already uncovered another big clue in the case using the chef's cell phone records.
We identified his last contact number, and we recognized that at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, he's talking to this person, and then all of a sudden, the communication stops.
Turns out the phone call DJ made to his best friend was not his last call of the night.
That is what turned this into not a missing person, but more of a victim of a crime.
6-year-old niece that's texting him and wondering why Uncle DJ is not responding to her text messages. He needs to come home.
After going through cell phone records for Chef Doug's late-night calls, cops dial in on the very last one. But it's puzzling. The call was made from the Detroit neighborhood of Brightmoor to an untraceable number. They learn it's associated with a merchant's website selling services.
This was a number that was affiliated with Backpage.
Sources say Calhoun, before going missing in June, answered an ad on Backpage.
You can be anybody on Backpage. You can do anything on there and be misleading on it.
Working backwards, Detroit PD Detective James McDonald pores over every call received and made by that last number Chef Doug called.
I come upon a number that belongs to a pizza place called Crazy Joe's Pizza, and lo and behold, it's in the Brightmoor area.
McDonald heads to Crazy Joe's and asks whether they recognize the number. Incredibly, they do, telling him where they delivered the pizza ordered by that number.
Well, I mean, this is the needle in the haystack. Now I had a direction to go in my investigation.
At the house, a 17-year-old girl answers the door. At first, she doesn't cooperate, but eventually she tells detectives she's been living in the house since March with her 27-year-old boyfriend, a habitual offender named Trayvon Baskerville.
Now I have enough probable cause to go back to the house with a search warrant.
What they find when they return with a warrant leaves them stunned.
We find suspected blood on a mattress, a lot of blood. That suggests somebody was bleeding pretty heavily. I basically said, hey, listen, we need to talk again. And she voluntarily goes back with me.
After about 7 hours, the young woman admits Chef Doug was at the house on the morning of June 1st, and he didn't make it out alive.
She tells us, you might want to check into my boyfriend, Trayvon Baskerville.
Trayvon Baskerville is immediately arrested on outstanding felony warrants, but is now the prime suspect in the murder of Douglas Calhoun. When DNA tests confirm that blood found in the house belonged to Chef Doug, Trayvon's girlfriend agrees to confess everything she knows in exchange for immunity. Then she lays it out, telling cops exactly where the body is.
She identified the garage and said, hey, he's gonna be in the trash can in the back of the garage. Right where she said it was at, it was there.
Detective McDonald says he's never seen something so callous. Chef Doug had been in that garbage can for 37 days.
It was just mind-boggling how someone, a human, could take another human, put him in a trash can, roll him to a vacant garage, and just leave him there.
We were right there in Brightmoor community. We must have walked past him at least 5 or 6 times.
They threw him away like it was trash.
But why did Baskerville allegedly shoot and kill Chef Doug? The answer left his family gutted.
He wanted to do it without a condom.
He being Doug?
Yes.
Trayvon's girlfriend claims the chef had come over to the house agreeing to pay her $50 for oral sex, but then wanted more.
And what did you do at that point?
I told him no.
She says he asked for his money back, and that's when Trayvon came out with a gun.
Them two started going back and forth.
What does back and forth mean?
They was arguing back and forth about the money.
When Chef Doug asked Trayvon to step outside, she says her boyfriend shot him in the back. Afterwards, they both hid the body.
Where does Trey put the body?
Into the dumpster.
Okay. Do you help him do that?
Yes.
Why?
Because I was scared.
On the day of his arraignment, Baskerville didn't seem rattled by the charge of first-degree murder, but when the judge mentioned human trafficking,
his head popped up and his eyes got real wide. Human trafficking? Where do you get that charge from?
From his 17-year-old girlfriend, who told investigators Trayvon forced her into prostitution at age 16, and that he confiscated all the money she had earned. 1 year after Chef Doug's tragic death, Trayvon Baskerville was convicted of second-degree murder and human trafficking. Part of what did him in were more phone calls, conversations with his then-girlfriend, asking, "Did you tell on me?" and telling her, "If you keep talking, you're going to make yourself an accessory." Those calls were recorded from prison, a fact not lost on the judge during his sentencing.
And there really wasn't much evidence that directly linked you to the crime until you opened your own mouth on the jail call. When you asked, "Did you tell on me?" that was the clearest admission of your own guilt and your own responsibility, and that's really what convicted you in this case.
Speaking at sentencing, Dana Phillips said no matter what the reason her little brother showed up at that house that night, he did not deserve to be murdered.
DJ was unarmed. He would never physically harm a woman and didn't pose a life threat to this coward, Baskerville. Yet he thought it was necessary to murder my brother rather than simply asking him to leave the house. It takes a cold-blooded, heartless person to murder someone over $50.